Welcome, everybody. It's the guys from Crossbody of Work, and we are here with an interview with a wrestler for the very first time. He will be wrestling Nick Aldis for Chinlock Wrestling on September 16th. We are pleased to be joined by the natural Nick Sullivan. Hi, Nick.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
Doing really, really well.
We're very excited. You're our first wrestler.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah, we've decided to branch out into interviewing for some reason. Hopefully, we're good at this. I know you're great at this. You're a pro wrestler. I mean, someone's got to have a promo ability somewhere. Sometimes they do it in the ring. Sometimes they do it backstage. Sadly, this is not pre-taped. So whatever you say just goes on air.
Yeah, we're doing it live, pal. It's going to be great. So, Nick, for those who don't know, how would you describe the natural Nick Sullivan?
So the way I would describe myself is I'm very, very aggressive in the ring because I come from a freestyle and Greco background. So when people see me in a match and when people in the crowd are like, oh, that was real. Oh, he really hit him. 99% of the time, it's legit throws and slams. I'm a very passionate individual. I think like you have to give it 120% or more. I don't like asking. I don't like asking for help. I like earning it. Like when it comes to wrestling in general, I like having people reach out to me or people recommend me. I just like working hard and just earning my worth, I guess you could say. That's a wrestling background.
That's a good way to put it. So you have an amateur wrestling background. So what was that like? Was that high school? Was that college?
When I was younger, all the way from high school to college, and I did a lot of overseas tournaments. I wrestled in Germany, Puerto Rico. I wrestled all over Canada on freestyle and Greco. So it was a very, very good experience. And then I wanted to branch out into pro wrestling.
And that seems like a pretty natural transition.
So, funny enough, when I first started, my former trainer, Mark House, who actually had to retire a few months back due to second time retirement due to a severe injury. When I first started training, I didn't like getting taken down because in amateur wrestling, we're all used to like keeping our feet moving around. And like if someone will go like step with me, I'm like, oh really? And I'll go for a shoot takedown or like a hold. But then after I would say been doing this for about 4.5, 5 years, I would say probably like a year ago, I learned more how to work, like building my character, my development. Instead of going like 100 miles an hour, just take my time because I'm a big guy. I'm not little, but I'm so used to. I have that amateur wrestling mentality where it's like a lot about like speed and mechanics. But I was able to easily develop that now into my character. But yeah, the first couple months, I was very, very aggressive and very mean and stiff. But again, too, when everyone starts out, everyone has their own different attributes, and then you grow from there.
And would you say you were the natural back then, or
Oh, yeah.
how long into the career did the natural come out?
So it was actually funny because when I was doing freestyle and Greco, in my mind, I always wanted to be a pro wrestler. So I was trying to think of like names, like what I would call myself, and it always came to mind like the Natural Next Song because it reminded me of Natural Dustin Rhodes. So even before amateur wrestling, pro wrestling, I always wanted to be a wrestler. So, and that's how I came up with the name.
So do you want to have the match on the back of that pickup truck or whatever it was that
the bunkhouse brawl or whatever
the bunkhouse? You want to have one of those bunkhouse matches,
Yeah.
Or what's the goal here?
Maybe it all depends.
Yeah, I don't know what company's going to be doing that. So you said you always wanted to be a pro wrestler. So one of the things we want to talk about is your fan match, the match that made you a fan of professional wrestling. If you had to pick a match that you think really got you hooked, what would it be?
Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, WrestleMania 12.
The Iron Man match.
Yep. I know a lot of, like, whether it be fans or wrestlers alike, I know nowadays, like, the thing, like, that match is very boring because we've seen so many Iron Man matches, but that match with like, the technical, with the high flying, like, at that point, even though Ric Flair was having marathon matches, and I know who Ric Flair was when I was a little kid, seeing Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, I'm like, okay, that's something I really want to do. And I was always a big Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart fan growing up.
If you had to pick one, Shawn or Bret?
Oh, God, it's hard.
It's like picking a favorite parent.
I know. Oh, my God. I would have to go to Bret right now because I have a Bret Hart, Nick the Natural Sullivan, the Canadian hero, inspired singlet made. So I would have Bret Hart, but that's my babyface gear. And as a heel, I'm actually getting Shawn Michaels inspired singlet made. So playing both sides.
What's that? You coming out with the sunglasses and everything?
If I have to come out with sunglasses and chaps, I will. I do not care.
People will be getting their money's worth
Oh
if
yeah.
that happens. Let me tell you
Oh
something.
hell yeah.
The chaps would be something else. I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea. So you are a fan of wrestling, obviously. You're a fan of wrestling. How does one get into actually getting in the ring? What was your journey to actually getting in the ring for the first time?
So again, like I said, growing up, I was always a big wrestling fan. Impact, well, TNA, WWF, WWE, WCW, ECW. Growing up, I never knew what independent wrestling was.
Mm.
And I guess like here in Syracuse, we had a big company called 2CW. That's where like guys like Kevin Steen, El Generico, AJ Styles, the Young Bucks, a lot of these guys wrestled here. And I did a school a few times just by doing researching and stuff. And that was back in, I want to say 2014. So like I met a lot of my friends who I have to this day. I remember doing the training. Sadly, I had to stop because I was still wrestling, and the coach didn't like me doing, I guess I would say, scripted wrestling and not focusing on amateur wrestling, which I understand. And
Mm.
further down the line, after I graduated college, I was still doing amateur wrestling, well, freestyle and Greco. And it's one day you do it for so long, you just get tired and burnt out, and just cutting weight. I like like back in the day, I used to be like a good 197 to 220 with like 5% body fat, and now I'm like a good like 255, 260. But I feel good, you know.
Yeah.
If I have to cut down, if I ever have to cut down and get low again, I will. But it sucked. And transitioning to pro wrestling, it's just fun because it's a lot of it's acting, it's art. Like how again Bret Hart would say, it's art. You're telling a story. You're putting on. It's like the circus. Like how that's how wrestling progressed. Came from the circus, the carny. Um, but no, when I contacted the school, got to train there for a couple months and got back to amateur wrestling. Then around 2017, I contacted Mark House for Upstate Pro Wrestling. Then just showed up, and just honestly just went from there.
And the ride has gone ever since.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he took one look at you and was like, "Yep, we'll let that guy in."
Well, it was fun because like the hardest part for me was getting off my feet because again in amateur wrestling I was used to standing up, and if we're getting a takedown, work the body, and the hard part for me was the front flips. I can handstand really well and do a bump from there, but the hard part was the front flips, and that took me forever to get down. But I finally got that down, and just learning everything else.
Bumping. How was bumping?
Yeah.
At the beginning for
Bump
you?
for me was fine because I'm so used to getting slammed on the wrestling mat.
Yeah.
So that's the one I never complained about bumping. Honestly, I never complained about practice to begin with. Even like if I mess up with something, I would get frustrated myself because my goal is always to be perfect, even though no one's perfect. But like my goal, like me, like mentally, I want to be the best I can be and be top notch.
For sure. Is there something that's harder in wrestling than people think it is? Because you mentioned like front flips being hard. Like, is there anything else in the ring or that you were like, this is not as easy as I thought it was? Maybe when I was watching growing up.
I honestly, I would say running the ropes. Like running the ropes didn't hurt me. Like I would have black and blues that didn't bother me, but the positioning and the footwork, because you have to do it in like certain increments and you have to get it perfect. And again, too, I'm always like I always try to do quick feet, like or again like how in football too. So yeah, I learned how to like space it out, and obviously like you'll wrestle in different rings, like to learn like progress from there.
Oh man, how is that, by the way? The switch in rings, especially for a guy who you travel all across many provinces in Canada. Maybe some U.S. shots. Like I'm assuming there isn't really a standard size for
No,
rings anywhere.
it all varies. Like a lot of times, like I'll like before shows, I'll get in the ring and like just test it out, like bump a little bit, then honestly, I just go from there. As like with me, I just want to like when I see my like well see my opponent do what we need to do and go in the ring, just put on a show.
Are there ever some nights where you just walk in there and you're like, all right, not loving how the ropes are feeling. All right, we're gonna have a lot of fisticuffs today. We're not running the ropes as much.
Like with me, um, my goal is always put on a great show. Like I've been in a couple rings where like bumping effing sucked.
Yeah.
Like you know what? Just the fans are here. They paid good money. Do what I need to do, and I'll be sore on the way home, or I'll think about the next day.
Yeah, that's a tomorrow problem. I'll deal with that
Yeah, yeah,
later.
yeah,
Yeah,
for real.
I'll just deal with the consequences later. So like, let's talk about your first match too. What can you tell us about your first indie match?
So my very first match, like I didn't have that much initial training. It was probably maybe like a few months.
Yeah,
And my very first match. So basically, what they were good at the at Upstate Pro Wrestling, the promoters, they're good at hiding my weakness and showing my strengths. And my strength is just all power stuff.
yeah.
And I just remember going out there, twice the guy's size. He gives me a couple hits. I run him over. And when I be ran him over, like I effing ran him over.
Oh,
Then boom, hit him with the finisher 1, 2, 3. That's literally the match probably lasted like 5 minutes. And I would get so hyped. I'm thinking in my mind, like I said, the mentality is all amateur wrestling, but I would get so hyped. Like a lot of times, and still now to say, like, remember stuff going over stuff in my head, I'll be in the corner and just close my eyes and just visualize the match in my head. And people will come up to me like, "Hey, are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, good." I'm just memorizing the match in my head because a lot of people are like, "Yo, dude, you're good." Or like I'll like go like crazy eyes and just pace myself and just do what I need to do just to get that match going.
So your debut match, would you categorize it as a squash?
It was 100%. It was 100% squash. Like watch me wrestle back then, a couple years ago till now. I've definitely improved a great deal.
Yeah. But hey,
all right.
what a nice way to debut. A lot
Yeah,
of
I
people
know.
talk about, yeah, I got sent to the woodshed and I jobbed or I did whatever. But to come on and be like, yeah, no, I just ran the guy over.
Yeah.
And
I
so
love
how
that.
has your kind of your set evolved since then in terms of like what you feel like you can do in the ring? Have you kind of evolved since then?
So I'm very comfortable. Like my wrestling is 100% like all amateur stuff, but I will add in like pro wrestling flair. But I like to do
Mhm.
like what I'm very good at because you don't like in wrestling today. There's a lot of guys who do some crazy ass moves and flips and stuff like that. I give those guys credit because my big ass ain't doing a front flip moonsault corkscrew pile driver. I'll watch guys. I will not do it. I think of myself as a traditional wrestler. Just if I have to, because I'm good at grappling, I do a lot of grapple holds. But this, it's a lot of powers and throws. But again, too, in Canada, I do my gimmick, the Canadian hero. So I'm a delusional American who thinks he's a Canadian hero, and I get the like a Seaway Valley wrestling. I get the crowd going, especially the kids. And the
Mhm.
hard part for me is I can't be mean to kids. As much as I try to be a bad guy, you see kids like I'll mess around with them and all. But at the end of the day, I physically I cannot be mean to a kid. Like I'll mess around with them, but I think because I'm a father myself and I wouldn't want to see my son get booed or have a wrestler get in my son's face because then, excuse my French, but I'm gonna beat the shit out of the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, understandable. I mean, when you're out there, and you say you're a heel when you go into Canada. When you've got to sort of turn the switch on and go into heel mode, what's something that sort of that you target when you go out there and you're trying to get that heel heat from the crowd?
So I'm really good at flipping the switch, whether it be face or heel. Like a lot of times, if I do play the bad guy, I'll ponder a lot to the crowd or the guy I'm working with. I'll talk crap to the crowd. Like there's times where you get like the drunk fans. They'll try to start crap with you, so I'll pinpoint to them this, just talk the random crap and get them going. Because my goal is to, if I can draw a reaction from the crowd, whether it be positive or negative, I know I'm doing something right. But I just go out there and to me, I just think it's like just like Agnes. Just go out there and do what I need to do.
And do you like, let's say you have a card that's or a match that's kind of later on in the card, are you like surveying the crowd a little bit with the matches before yours to see, oh, who's getting a little tipsy, who's getting a little rowdy, so you can start pointing out?
Like a lot of times, like I'll watch some of the matches, but not necessarily. A lot of times, like other talk to my opponent. Just talk about like a lot of the guys because I see a lot of the guys on the shows. Like we talk about each other's families, or just in my match, just go over the match, or talk to my opponent, see what we want to do. Just honestly, just go from there.
Yeah. You can probably get a sense of it too when you're out there, like, oh, that guy
Oh
talks
yeah,
a
like
lot.
that. I really go all on energy.
Are there any fans in particular you remember from any shows?
So there's a fan back in February was actually in the States. I'm not gonna repeat what the fan said, but he made a comment not so nice. And I remember I got on the microphone. This was like in the middle of like nowhere, and I said Happy Black History Month. The crowd got
Oh,
silent. Then I went booed, and I had to cover my mouth 'cause I started laughing. I'm like, all right, this is awkward.
Ooh.
made you
And that was
break
the same,
off.
that was the same show where I threw one of the wrestlers in the crowd, like the Bam Bam Bigelow Spike Dudley spot.
Yeah.
Yep.
But wrestlers are supposed to catch him on the outside. No one caught him. He just went, "Pfft." And he saw my face. I was like, oh shit.
Oh no.
So yeah,
Oh no.
It's that I saw this going differently in my mind.
oh yeah, I did. I'm like, I killed him. So that hated me.
Was it one of those deals where they just like weren't paying attention and didn't catch him, or
Uh,
did you just overthrow the guy?
I won't throw anybody under the bus, but let's just say there was enough parties there to catch him. And I'll just say I thought it was my wrongdoing, but after watching everything and seeing it back, I'm like, okay,
You probably could have gotten caught. You probably could have
100,
been caught.
100%.
Oh dear God.
It's always good to catch those catchable passes.
Yep.
You know?
And like my goal, even though it's a very physical sport, my goal is to always protect my opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And that day, he came out fine, but he wasn't protected. And I think that's what really grinds my gears the most too. If my opponent's not protected enough, then I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah. So you mentioned the gimmick, the Canadian hero. As a Canadian, I'm thrilled. I'm happy to have more Canadian heroes. I'm on board. Who are some other Canadian heroes for you?
So obviously there's Bret Hart.
Yeah.
I've always been a very, very big fan of guys like Owen Hart. God.
Doesn't even have to be wrestlers. It could be like Jim Carrey. Like,
Oh yeah, I forgot Jim Carrey's Canadian.
oh yeah, no, that's the things. Canadians claim Canadians so hard.
Yeah.
Anybody who makes it out of Canada, we're like, yes, him.
So I'm a hardcore fan of the Trailer Park Boys.
Fantastic.
My wife hates that show. I will watch.
Most wives do.
I'm a very big fan of Bubbles, and obviously you guys remember the episode of Conky with the puppet.
Yep.
I always thought it was the funniest thing ever, especially with Sebastian Bach during the couple seasons. My goal is to meet those guys and like do like a cameo kind of know they're wrestling fans.
Oh yeah.
I'm a hardcore Trailer Park Boys fan.
There's wrestling in the show. Like they have a whole thing where they set up a ring. Yeah.
Yep.
It's great.
I expected like a Shania Twain mention or something here. The Trailer Park Boys. That's completely out of the field.
I do have a lot of her songs downloaded on my phone. She's a very great, talented singer.
She's no Trailer Park Boys.
Exactly.
I think somebody else can sing her songs. Nobody else can be Bubbles.
Oh jeez.
It's a great time. So the other thing that we asked you for is your favorite match. Before we started recording, we asked you to send us your favorite match. And the match you sent us is with a name that a lot of wrestling fans are going to recognize. It is you against Moose.
Yes.
So what was it like to step in the ring with Moose?
So him and I are very, very similar. And the funny story is he played football at SU, Syracuse University, and obviously went off to the NFL. So the way him and I met, when I found I was having the match, I was very excited. And him and I have a similar friend by the name of Arthur Jones. He played at Syracuse. He was actually a very, very good amateur wrestler at Union Endicott with his brother John Jones, who is in the UFC. Yes. When I was younger, I got a chance to train with those guys when I was younger at Shamrock Wrestling in Binghamton, and those guys are very, 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 very talented wrestlers. Mm-hmm. So it was cool that we had similar connections, and just obviously he's a vet, he's a pro, so I just went out and just listened, followed his lead, and him and I, because we talked, and him and I both have very similar ways we got on the wrestling and how we progressed, because he knew my goals, because my goal, like right when I got into pro wrestling, no matter what, was to be at the top and get signed. And I know a lot of guys have their own goals, or they care about title belts, or whatever the case may be. You know, everyone has their own different mindset when it comes to pro wrestling. But when I got into pro wrestling, my goal was to get signed and just work hard to get there.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to the match you had against Moose, I you know, the match is obviously it's an excellent match. It's two heavyweights going right at each other the whole way through. The crowd was particularly a thing of note here. I know we mentioned it earlier, you know, people, rowdy people out in the crowds and how you pick them out and all that stuff. So we won't even get to the moment with the crowd with the audience member yet. We'll start off with the at the
Oh,
beginning.
yep.
You go, and I'm assuming you're the heel in this match, right? Obviously.
Yeah, because it was 50-50. Like originally they had me pan as a babyface. I'm like, it's Moose. He face or heel. People are gonna cheer for him.
Yeah,
It's
he's
Yeah.
Impact World Champion at the time.
Yep.
So you go out there. I think you flip off the crowd, and then
I don't even know.
Moose follows it up. You guys go in for a handshake. Moose completely dusts you on the handshake and just flips you off. And is that like an exchange that you guys maybe talked about pre-match, or is that like something that just kind of happens in this on the spot?
Honestly, it's kind of abs with a lot of ad lib,
Mhm.
especially like again too like with Moose, that are pro. I just follow his lead and just go with the flow.
Is
Oh,
that
for
like a
sure.
thing that's kind of common with matches? Like everything that happens, before the action actually starts, is that usually just like ad libbed, or do you guys talk about that in the back?
A lot of it's ad lib, especially like I'll say like the backtrack, like my Canadian hero gimmick. When I was at C4, I would say 2 months ago, I was in a triple threat match, and there's a character by the name of Landon Lightning, who's
Mhm.
trained by Evil Uno Sue Grayson. Great kid, great worker. And I didn't realize he did like kind of like a Rick Rude esque Buff Bagwell gimmick. I remember him coming to the ring, and I'm watching. I'm like, yo, I'm like, really? And I started laughing. So I'm calling. I saw it's on IWTV. So during the match, I hit him with something. I do the double drop down, do the double bicep, and do the Rick.
Beautiful.
I'm like, again, too. I was feeling. I was looking at my opponent, their mannerism, was feeling the crowd. I'm like, you know what? I know what I can do right here because I always try. I always try to think 10 steps ahead.
As somebody
Love
who,
that.
so I just moved out of Ottawa recently.
Okay.
I love C4. Great promotion. Any good memories from working C4? Have you been there multiple times before? Or?
I want to say I've been there like maybe like five times maybe. Um, I would say that triple threat match was a top tier for me. When I first went there, I was in a 6-man tag. Yeah, it was 6-man tag. I got to work with a good group of guys and girls, and just like you know how C4 is, just energy. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
I hope to be there more often. I know they get a lot of again, they get a lot of guys on there that are a lot of guys from Beyond Wrestling, or a lot of
Mhm.
high flyer guys. But again, too, like I said, I'm not downplaying anybody. A lot of stuff the guys like the guys and girls do are amazing, but again, I believe I stand out because I'm a wrestler, and I
Mhm.
will
Yeah.
stick by that. A lot of people may not like it. I may not be a lot of people's cup of tea. A lot of people would rather see again the flippy stuff or this the high indie work rate. But again, too, I'm that guy. Well, all it takes is just one throw, and the guy ain't getting up. You know what I mean?
It's a good. You need that balance though.
Yeah,
Like they don't look flippy if they're up against just a bunch of other flippy people. They need to look flippy against you, who can just grab them and toss them to the ground and make their whole body hurt.
exactly. And
Hey
again,
man.
a lot of people may not like it, but I will stand my ground. You know, it's pro wrestling. You literally have to fight for what you believe in.
Yeah, in a world full of luchadors, sometimes you just got to be Brock Lesnar.
Yes. Yeah. But like I said before, I respect anybody that gets into pro wrestling and whatever goal they have. But yeah, everyone's so different.
Yeah. Going back to the match with Moose, it's again, it's a battle of you and him going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You really play up your size in that match, which is
Mhm.
really daunting because Moose is a big
Oh,
dude.
he's a big dude. I knew he was a big dude. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah, like when he's trying to get you down with those shoulder blocks, it looks like he's obviously he's a worker. He's a good worker too. He knows how to keep it safe. Is he kind of like hitting you though? Like, are you feeling those shoulders?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh,
Like I said before, like I can feel everything. But again, too, I like working with guys that are already signed or the bigger guys in the indies because one, it helps me because all these guys, well, they're stiff. And like I said before, like whether you're starting at the bottom of the total pole or all the way to the top, you're gonna meet some of these guys like these high rate workers that are gonna hit you. And again, I've had guys complain about me, and it is what it is. But it's like, are you gonna again if you're gonna wrestle a moose? People probably complain, but maybe in the back or by themselves. But it's wrestling, you know. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's
yeah,
not
it's not
ballet.
ballet. It's
Yeah,
not ballet. And when he's getting you with these shoulder blocks, at any point, are you like, oh, he might actually get me down here? Just shoot, like,
Oh, no, I was lowering my base because obviously he has that football background, I have that wrestling background. So either way, we're going to clash because him and I were throwing blows on those forearms. I was so, but after the match, I was so pumped and hyped up and happy. Next day, I was sore, but I'm like, I didn't even care. I'm like, you know what? Like, I wrestle Moose and like wrestling guys like that. To me, it's the company or the promoter. It to me, it's a test or like it's like, hey, we believe in this guy, man. The way I work, I want to work with all the top guys because to me,
For
that's
sure.
going to make it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Is that
I
something
think,
you're definitely looking forward to with your match against Aldis coming
Oh,
up? Another guy, what
man.
was it? Over 500 days as the NWA
yeah,
champion.
Yep, 120%. You know, like I said, like win, lose or draw, I'm going to give it my all because I know who's going to be there. I know the connections that's there, and my goal is just go out there and bust my ass and be like, yo, this kid has it.
Mhm.
definitely. It's great. Howard's bringing up the shoulder block spot. What we do on the podcast regularly, we take a wrestler, we watch 5 of their matches, we just talk about their whole career, and sometimes you can't find like the through lines in matches. Like what's the story we're telling here? Immediately, the story is Moose cannot get you down.
Yeah.
Like you're just as strong, if not stronger, than he is in this moment. He can't get you down. He has to come up with another way, and that's the through line through like the whole match. And that's it's a pretty simple concept, but it works so effectively. And like, is that something that you knew was going to be kind of the bit going through, or did you talk about it, or was that again like more the in the moment figuring it out?
Uh, Talked about it. Like I said too, like he's a vet, he's a pro. So when it comes to a lot of these guys, like it's all when it comes to pro wrestling, it should be about storytelling. I
Mm-hmm.
guess
Yep.
before everyone's different, every promotion, every wrestler's different. But I want to be at that point where I tell a story because as much like WWE, for example, people I know a lot of people hate WWE. I grew up watching it. I know a lot of people are tired of the bloodline, their whole Roman Reigns story. I think it's awesome.
No.
But again, too, it's not everyone's cup of tea. You hear people say, "Oh, he's not a good wrestler," blah blah blah. I'm like, that guy's so goddamn big. He doesn't. He all he needs to do is just punch, kick, and pan to the crowd while Paul Heyman's is being all in his glory.
Yeah.
And for example, like the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes match, Cody Rhodes had that whole redemption and just doing it for his father. He was in AEW for or gone for so long. He comes back, wins the Royal Rumble, goes to WrestleMania. At that very moment, he gets defeat. So again, too, there's that another redemption story. Wrestles Rollins a couple times. Um, just keep moving back. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Cody, they're burying him and all." It's like not every guy is automatically being the world title picture. Just let's say WWE signs me tomorrow. You know, I'm not going to expect to be right in the world title match. You have to work your way up. When it comes to pro wrestling, especially someone like companies like WWE, AEW, Impact, they look for certain talents that work hard, but also too that can sell tickets
Yeah,
and can work when it comes to the sponsors, crowds, kids in general. We all know WWE is geared towards children. People may hate it, but it's reality. All
it's
that money
true.
they make on toys, this John Cena, the Make a Wish. People hate John Cena, but you know what? I have so much respect for that man because that
Yeah.
guy busts his hump. He may not 5 moves of doom. You know what? 5 moves of doom made him a couple $1,000,000 a year. More power to him.
You are preaching to the choir right
Yeah,
now.
I was gonna say you're
Like,
talking to the biggest John Cena fan in the
yeah,
world right now.
I thought like when John Cena did the whole thing on Raw with him and the Miz went against the Invisible John Cena. Well, they
Oh
please
yeah.
like that crowd went ape shit. Excuse my language, but that crowd was going nuts. I'm like, but I felt to myself too. Like I felt the electricity. I'm like, holy crap, it's John Cena. But then again, too, another one that deserves his flowers is the Miz.
Yes.
Yes.
A hard worker. A lot of people say, oh, he was a MTV, real life, whatever the hell it is, the reality star. But you know what? He had to deal with a lot of dog shit. And look at him now. You know,
Yeah.
the guy on the mountaintop.
I think it was Matt Cardona, like his buddy, who was like, nobody has won at life more than the Miz.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
look at him. Look at it. He's
yeah,
like probably one of the best intercontinental champions of all time. He's married to Maurice. He's a well-respected worker in the business for years. He's like a safe wrestler. Like
yeah,
Miz hasn't made.
yeah.
Most
Just
people
had
are
a
talking about.
program with the hottest guy in WWE right now.
Yeah.
You know, like this is like Miz is in the role that I feel like every wrestler should probably like aspire to get to.
Oh yeah,
It's just be reliable, be consistent, be prominently featured at all times throughout your entire career and somehow, some way, not get stale.
Exactly.
Like,
No,
it's insane. I mean, the
it's a-
guy's he's main evented WrestleMania. He's a multiple
Yep.
time world champion. And not enough can be said about that. But one thing that the Miz is also good at, that I saw, that you were good at, especially in this Moose match, is interplay with the crowd. Specifically, making the crowd so pissed off at you that they want to assault you.
Yeah.
Because this one guy, all right, so Moose whips you into the guardrail.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I've never seen someone move guardrails further back than
Oh,
you
dude, I
did.
saw that. I was like, oh.
You went like a solid. I think you pushed like 3 rows of chairs back. It was incredible.
If there wasn't a guardrail there, I probably would have went into like all the entire crowd.
yeah, you would end up in the next town over.
Yeah.
But anyways, like you're there. You're selling. You've got your hands draped over the guardrails, all this stuff. And a guy who I guess is just probably there with his kids or something, or grandkids or whatever. He's just got his phone, and it's right up in your face.
Yeah, because I was like, what the hell? Because I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? Because there's kids there too, but I'm like, what's this guy doing? And obviously, we're going to talk about when I swiped out his hand, he tried to grab me. And in my mind, because my mom was there too, and my mom is Italian and Polish and Italian, and my mom has an Italian temper, and my mom probably would have went over there and choked him out. But in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I am not ruining this match with Moose. Again, if it was somebody else, I probably would have grabbed the guy by the neck and just chucked him somewhere. But I'm like, no, screw that. And I'm like, let's just keep going.
But we can see eventually we can book the grudge match of your mom versus that guy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
my mom will possess.
Yeah, it'll be a squash. Her debut match will also be a squash. It'll be awesome.
Yep.
I thought it was
Amazing.
wild because that guy. It took so long for that guy to get calmed down. Meanwhile, a match is happening. You and Moose still trying to work. Your manager, who was out there, also like intervened a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about him.
What was that? Sorry.
Tell us about your manager who was out there.
Oh, so Father Derek. So funny story about Derek. He used to be a very, very good pro wrestler. He had 2 WWE tryouts back in the day. When I was younger, I used to see him at the gym all the time. This is when I was doing amateur wrestling. I used to bother him all the time about pro wrestling. And funny story, he actually taught my wife, my 2 younger brothers, too. So we had action from there. And like a couple years ago, prior, him and I were at the company Immortal Championship Wrestling, which is based out in Albany, and that's the company that Moose and I had the match. Derek and I talked because Derek won the management. I'm like, hell yeah, I love it because he has such a great mind for the business, and he's someone that at the end of the day I think can get either signed as a manager, producer, or creative, because that guy just comes up with stuff like that. And him and I literally talk every day.
Mm-hmm.
And one, because we only live like 8 minutes away from each other, but I will always pick his brain for like ideas or how to work on things, and love the guy to death, man. He's one of my best friends.
That's awesome. That's great to be able to do that. Have
Yeah.
one of your closest friends, somebody you really trust in the business, to be there with you as your manager.
Yeah.
That's a great choice for a manager.
Yes. And
Like Javier would never let me manage him.
No, I would turn on him immediately.
I know, like right now, I have a new manager. He goes by the name of Rocco. He actually did some work in Ring of Honor, and it's crazy because him and Derek are very, very similar. And it's very scary. Like him and I have, like, he has a lot of goals for me, and like help me develop my character more. Because he told me like this, he's like, Duke, focus more on the amateur wrestling stuff, and he has, obviously, from being in Ring of Honor, he has such a great mind for the business too. So, and sorry to backtrack, but what I noticed in pro wrestling too is like a lot of people in general, see, there's some people take criticism or some people will be upset. And I've noticed this by observing, probably 90% of the time, a lot of people don't like taking criticism. But again, too, it's pro wrestling. We're putting on a show for people. It's a work. You have to learn to take criticism. Let's say my match next week, all this will give me like points, like, oh, work on this, work on that. Or Tommy Dreamer, for example. When I'm going to go, I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? They throw a little hit spin. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You'd be like, all right, thank you. But again, too, I think because society today, a lot of people expect everything handed to them. And me, I want to work for it.
No, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about the work in the match, I don't know about you, Javi, but when I was watching this match, the thing that stood out to me, aside from like the crowd work is excellent, the pacing's really good. Man, those suplexes you do.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
There's a belly to belly in there. Trent is fantastic. There's a German suplex. I'm like, nobody should be able to get moves up like that.
Effortlessly too. It was kind of
Yeah, I mean,
scary.
I'm sure it was lots of effort, but holy shit, we're just watching it and just up he goes.
Yep. There's a lot of guys like, because when I go over some like amateur wrestling, well, freestyle Greco, German 5-point throw. I think they changed the ruling now. I did talk to my coach, but 5-point throw at the end of the match, because it goes by the throw and the arch. You could do a 5-point throw out of any scenario to reverse lift, or one. I remember one freestyle Greco match. It was a Greco match against a guy from the army. I power bombed him. He pissed me off. He beat me first round. I got mad. And I was a sergeant. My coach, whose coach was a young child, smacked me. He's like, and again, he's like a father figure to me. He smacked. He's like, either you can let him do this to you. I came out there like a bat out of hell and effing WWE power bomb. It's like Kevin Nash power bomb. I got 1 point though because how the throw was, but I ended up attacking him. But
yeah, 1 point, but mentally you got like 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like a lot of guys,
the confidence.
yes, and a lot of guys I work with, if let's say we're going for a match, and I'm like, because a lot of guys want to have the tendency to jump.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, I'm like, do not jump. Let me do all the work. Because I've been in situations where guys have jumped, either they're land on their head or land a certain way. I remember one match, like some guy landed on their head. The crowd gasped because I guess he landed and slid across the ring.
Ooh.
Have no idea. I literally did a Triple H, because I was a big fan of Triple H's Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I did a curtsy in the middle of the ring. Didn't know the guy landed on his head.
Oh
Whoops.
no.
And that's a situation where I get where a lot of guys will complain. Will say like, "Oh, my throws are too hard." And again, too, I'm a big stickler in going over the match like 1,000 times or talking. Because I always ask the guy like, "Hey, are you comfortable taking this, that, or the other?" And guys will tell me, or guys see my work and they're saying, "I'm comfortable taking this." Then you do the move, then you complain. That's the one thing that annoys me. And my thing when it comes to wrestling, if anybody has issues with each other, just speak. We're all adults, and we're all we're all too old or like to fight. There's no reason to get in a real fight. It's again putting on a show to work. Like I've had situations where guys will complain, then like, all right, you should have told me to my face, son. Or guys will or I've had guys in the match that will like stiff me for real. Beside the blue, I'm like, oh, okay. And I'll let him do it a couple times. I'll start laughing. I'll put him in a hold or legit hit him. I'm like, guys, let's just work. Like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think
let's be professionals about
yeah, because I
this.
think, hey, we're not doing a favor to anybody. The crowd, it's gonna throw the crowd off. The promos are like, yo, what's going on? Then that's where the whole blame game comes around.
Yeah.
Then who knows? Next show, both myself or the guy, neither of us will get booked. So that's why I'm always very protective, or I always want to be known for that guy that will. I may be annoying calling over the match or asking guys, hey, are you okay taking this? But I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Great instinct, I think.
Yep.
All right, and then going on a little further down in the match here, you do a spine buster to Moose, which honestly kind of looked like the Rock spine buster before he sets up for a people's elbow. I thought that's where you were gonna go for here, and
the people's elbow.
Yeah, that you're gonna hit your own version of the people's elbow, and then you go down a little more. You guys have to trade some forearm shots. Moose hits a big Uranagi at one point. You hit a nasty headbutt right to his jaw. It looked
that was
like
nice.
Which I was like, oh, that looked real.
I am like, huh. Like that match, and again, I was so excited afterwards how that match went. But again, like for the couple weeks after that, I was sore, but it was all worth it.
And Spot looked great.
Yeah, Spot looked great. And then we really get to the finish here. After some brutal chop exchanges, forearm exchanges, clothesline exchanges, you and Moose just did not want to go down. You guys almost run over the ref in the corner a couple times. You turn around at one point, and Moose says, enough with this. He hits you with a spear, gets the 3 count, wins the match. I think he put you over, and about as well as a world champion from another promotion could get you over.
Yep. And the unedited footage, my stepdad filmed after the match. Him and I did shake hands. I can't remember what I said, but it was on the verbiage of like saying like, oh, I busted my ass, I worked hard, you owe this to me, or like, I extend my hand. Him and I both shook hands, and we got in the back, shook hands again, hugged, and we just talked. And like I said, like I hope, which I know for a fact, him and I will work together again, and this that match I'll do a lot of studying and just figure out what I did wrong and just work from there.
I mean, as from an outsider perspective, not a lot. If I'm coming on that match as a fresh set of eyes like I was, I'm like, obviously I know what Moose can do, but I watched that match and I'm like, I think I get exactly what Nick Sullivan could do and what he's about. So that's we're gonna
Thank
put that match on our socials. It's gonna be on the link's gonna be on our Instagram. Link's gonna be on our. I still hate calling it X. It's gonna be on Twitter.
yeah,
X whatever. It'll be there, and people should go check it out because it's a fantastic match.
And then we look at guys like that match you had in Moose. You look at your background, all this other stuff. Uh, Pro wrestling is, I think, just going up and up and up and up and up. And people, you can say all you want about it. I think wrestling is about as hot now everywhere as it's been
oh
in
yeah,
so long. Is that something that you noticed, by the way, since you work sort of independent scenes in all these areas? Do you feel like more people are coming out within the last like couple years than towards the beginning of your career?
120% yes. Especially in Canada. Like obviously we all know like Canada is a big hotbed for pro wrestling. And I actually do have like a lot of friends that wrestle in like the Massachusetts and Connecticut area. So like they're big hotbeds for wrestling. Just you could tell by like this by the crowd and the energy. Like doing like C4 or certain other shows, you see like these fans pile in. It's like, and even if there's guys like I've been to shows where my mind the car was going like just to visit. I'm like, I want to be here because
Mm-hmm.
it to me it goes by the crowd. It's all the energy. Like for me personally, like you get the energy of the crowd, and that's when you're like you want to just bring it, bring it, bring it.
For
That's
sure. I
awesome.
think wrestling's probably hotter than maybe not ever been, but man, it's hotter than it's been in
Yeah, but
years.
and you know what? I give AEW credit for going to Wembley the first time, and who knows what the actual number is? It shouldn't even matter. I give them credit for going out there and selling as much tickets as they did, and just going out there and putting on a show.
Yeah, I mean,
Hell of a show.
WWE's breaking box office numbers. It seems like with every pay per view, AEW's hitting a million buys on pay per view pretty much every time they go out there. They're putting on big shows everywhere. It's Ring of Honor is doing numbers on YouTube.
Yep,
Impact's doing
Impact's
great.
Impact's
yep.
still on TV.
Impact, and that's the one thing I hate is that I'm such a like one of my goals is to be on Impact first, just because too, this is scheduling, and because I have a son at home. I want to be there for my son,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and so many people downplay Impact so much, but again too, it's they kind of basically been the same arena when it was Dixie Carter running it,
Yeah.
and they put on great matches. But I don't understand why. But for some reason, people always want to shine. I'd rather be Impact or MLW. It's like I always have my own opinions on certain wrestling and like shows, but a lot of times I keep it to myself. I get how so many people go on social media. To me, that's dumb. I'd rather keep it. If I have a negative opinion, I'd rather keep it to myself.
Yeah.
And but again, too, that's how society is. That's how social media is. The
Yeah.
platform. People are going to agree to disagree. So, but I like all wrestling because every promotion has their own certain strengths.
Yeah, just let people like wrestling. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Just let people like wrestling. You mentioned earlier one of your goals is to get signed.
Yes.
And what are some of your other goals in the wrestling world?
Honestly, get signed. I would personally like to do Make a Wish, because I think that's a very very beneficial thing, especially what John Cena does.
Yeah.
The seeing like what I can do to provide for just a fan, like a young fan, and that's what I like. I love when like kids would come up to me after the show and be like, "Oh, hey, can I get your autograph?" Or remember when kids like, "Oh, here, can I pay you for like you?" I'm like, "No, you're not. I'm not going to charge you."
Yeah.
I I feel good having people come up to me and say, "Hey, great match," or "Hey, can you send us for my son? Can you take a picture?" I'd like to do like I would like to give back in that some type like that type of way.
Yeah, and that's a great mentality to have. One of my things, especially with the sport of baseball, is I always tell people like grow the game. I'm always saying this to my friends. If I ever catch a foul ball or something at a game, I'm giving it to the nearest kid because like
Yeah,
I'm 25. I'm gonna keep watching baseball, but that like 9-year-old kid who's in the crowd right now, maybe this is his first ever game or whatever. Maybe he's like iffy about the sport. Maybe he's really a basketball guy. If I give him this baseball,
remember
it grows a passion. They like have a fond memory of this sport now. They have a fond memory of something. Maybe it like grows an excitement in them. It's like, oh my god, I just caught this ball that was a home run from so and so player. Let me go like see if I watch more of this player. Oh my god, baseball's great. I think it should be the same mentality with pretty much anything we do, like wrestling. I'm not a wrestler, but if I saw a kid who wanted my autograph and like, I don't know, let's say I just got beat to hell in a match, I'm not going to turn the kid down, because that autograph to that kid might mean the world to them. And maybe they go
Yep.
on and they influence other people to become wrestling fans, or
Yep.
maybe they just grow their passion even more and they become like obsessive wrestling fans. And then we all just grow the community even more.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and yes. Like if I play a bad guy, kids will come up to me, oh, can we get out? I'm like, did you cheer for me? Oh, I saw you boo me. Why'd you boo me? I was like joking around and stuff like that. Oh, I have a kid throw me in a headlock or like give me a fake punch or something. Speak about that, a couple years ago when I first started, Bret Hart did autograph signing at the Syracuse Crunch here in Syracuse, our hockey team, and big line, and there are so many fans. I'm a big action figure collector.
Mm.
Like I have thousands of like wrestling toys and Ninja Turtles. And
You
my
and Matt
wife's like,
Cardona are right there with
yeah,
each other.
yeah. And my wife's like, what the hell? But again, too, it's like, well, when my son's old enough, him and I can start opening them and play with them. But if you guys see like our mudrooms, like it's disgusting how many toys there are. But I had Bret Hart sign my Greco-Roman national singlet.
Oh, that's
When
cool.
he looked at it, he's like, oh, you're an amateur wrestler. I'm like, yeah. So we started talking briefly, and he looked at me dead in my eyes and told me to never quit and just keep going. And there's so many people in line, but that moment I just thought no one else was there, just him and I. And I almost broke down. I was like, holy shit, Bret Hart told me that. But
Yeah.
like it was like I wish I could have stayed longer and hung out with him because I'm like, just pick his brain.
Yeah.
And that's one of my goals, is to have Bret Hart acknowledge me as a Canadian hero.
I like that.
Oh, weird scenario. Like, and like I'm wrestling guy in the match, and Bret Hart's like a special ring announcer, timekeeper, and I knock out the guy, then beat him the sharpshooter. Then maybe have Bret Hart acknowledge me, but the guy gets their heat back, and Bret Hart puts me in a sharpshooter or something, and I start tapping. I have this whole game plan in mind.
I love that. That's a great goal.
That's a great goal. Just make sure it's not the screw job recreation,
Yeah, don't get
and you're
screwed.
doing great.
I think one of the goals or things I thought of watching this, I was like, man, I think Nick would just kill it in Japan.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people say that. I do watch a lot of Japanese wrestling. Growing up, I was always a big fan of Vader.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Gary Albright, who was actually married in the Roman's family and stuff, and sadly he passed away at a young age. But what do you go? I think it was Nebraska he went to. But seeing that man legit suplex Vader, I was like, holy shit! Like he legit picked Vader up like a rag down, threw him across the ring.
Yeah.
I would love to take a tour to Japan. Like my amateur coach and I, because he goes to my shows when he can. Him and his wife, like we set up a game plan because I have certain areas I want to go to, do shows in Japan, the UK, and Italy. Like I have certain goals in mind when it comes to certain promotions. So I made a whole list and just want to keep working from there.
Just keep checking people off the list.
I don't know what needs to happen, but I need the natural going up against the Stone Pitbull. I need you and Tomohiro Ishii going round for round.
So if you watch his match with Moose, a lot of it was if you watch his match with Moose and my match with Moose, it's very similar in style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think him and I would kill it.
I think you'd tear the place down. One thing I also want to ask you before we let you go, other independent wrestlers that you think people should check out and pay attention to, because you're on the scene, you're wrestling guys who's like maybe even up and comers, people who've been doing it for a while. Do you think people that deserve some more flowers?
So there's a couple guys in Canada, McCray Martin, Junior Benito.
I love Junior Benito.
So I always tell Junior, can I see him all the time? I always tell him I was going to pick him up and throw him in the air somewhere. Our first, like literally, we all started at the same time, and during it was a rumble for Chinlock 4 years ago. I got to throw Junior around. I remember I chopped him so goddamn hard. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but he's such a good sport. And again, too, he's not a big guy, but he works so hard. There's a tag team, Fear the Beard. There's the producers that's Giordano and Ferdinando, Matt Viviani and Giordano was it McCots or McTots, but they're a very good tag team in IWS. There's Black and Yellow here in the States, who I'm good friends with, and there's Javier. Do you know Mike Skyros?
The name sounds familiar. He's in Northeast, isn't he? Northeast Wrestling.
He does Test of Strength. Pro Wrestling Grind. I know he's done a couple Beyond shows.
Yeah, that's probably
so
what it was.
Yeah. Then God, there's a whole list of guys I can think of. There's guys that I know personally, but like guys that like we just all work very hard.
For sure. Well, you got to put in a good word with them so they can come on and talk about their first match. And I'll be like, well, Nick got to do a squash and you didn't. So.
All right. So, we talk about the independent scene now, but, when like we mentioned, wrestling's hot right now. Wrestling's expansive. There's a lot of stars in a lot of different places.
Yes.
You take yourself and you can have whatever match tomorrow, whatever tomorrow may be. Take any promotion, anywhere, any wrestler at all, as that they just have to be active. Who do you want to face in a match tomorrow? Like, let's say the match for tomorrow. Who do you want to face? Any promotion, as long as they're active.
Honestly, go straight to top. People's going to hate it, but I love it. Roman Reigns. It will either be Roman Reigns or Cody. Either of those two.
No, I respect it. I respect going straight for the top guy.
Yeah. Walk in, pick the biggest guy. Go for him.
Some guys want Danielson. Nah. Give me the title guy.
Love that idea. That'd be a hell of a match to watch.
And especially both those guys can tell a great story and then make me look like $1 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Probably make you $1 million too. Well,
yeah,
not a bad idea.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That doesn't hurt. Nick, thanks for joining us. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media and follow your work.
So on my Facebook, there's either my athlete page or my personal page, Nick Sullivan and Nick the Natural Sullivan. Instagram, Nick the Natural Sullivan. I believe my Twitter is NS Sullivan or the Natural Nick Sullivan. It's all. If you type in Nick Sullivan and Natural Nick Sullivan, I'm gonna come up no matter what. You can find me a lot of promotions in Canada, C4, Seaway Valley, Chinlock Wrestling, FML, and then I've been in talks with a lot of other promotions, some in Florida, and a lot. Hopefully, I'll come back to States more too. So, but again, I prefer Wrestling Canada, just because like the match types and just the crowd in general.
Canadians doing it better. What a surprise.
I know.
Wrestling Nick Aldis for Chinlock Wrestling on September 16th. Thank you so much for joining us, Nick.
Thank you.
And thanks for being our first wrestler we interviewed. You're a great one to start with.